Undoubtedly, one of the foundational characteristics of the Qur'an, which we find in the root of the name of the book itself, qara'a, right, is something spoken. And there is something very profound in this. And in preparing for my khutbah tomorrow, my sermon, there's a passage in the 24th chapter of the Qur'an, Surah An-Nur, from roughly the 45th verse to the 52nd, that beautifully illustrates this idea of not simply call and response, but literally, as it says, to hear and obey. And when I look around today and I see the challenges that numerous Muslims are facing, challenges to their faith, or even if their faith isn't challenged, just say the challenge to be faithful, to be worshipful, to practice. As a remedy, some people turn to, sources or books of what I said earlier on Twitter, this kind of speculative theology. And the person asks, well, what is speculative theology in Arabic? This in some ways shows our problem. And whatever you want to call speculative theology, whether you want to name it in Arabic or German or Spanish or English, is irrelevant in some ways. It's really barking up the wrong tree. And that what we should be looking at, in my opinion, is something far more simple, far more elegant, right? Listen and obey. And it's amazing that in this concept of sami'na wa ata'na, right, the whole thing, إِنَّمَا كَانَ قَوْلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, right, the words of the faithful, right, the words of the faithful, إِذَا دُعُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ, when they are called to God, right, their words are nothing other than, right, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, right? Or أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And then وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَيَخْشَى اللَّهَ وَيَتَّقِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. So the last two part, right, the 51st and 52nd approximately verses, right? The words of the pious, the words of the believers, when they are called to God and to his messenger. And here's the thing, right? Everybody's called to God and his messenger, the faithless and the faithful. But when the words of the faithful, when are called, their response is simply, we hear, because the Qur'an is an utterance. It is literally, قَرَأَ اقْرَأْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ. Right? Allah is speaking to his creation. God is speaking to his creation. And therefore, we listen. And in fact, this is why even a person that is hearing impaired, for instance, is not exempt from the call, right? That the simple, elegant, bare bones, no excuses, demanding so-called spiritual path, as I wrote earlier, I can find no other path to the path of Allah that is more terse in economy, that will bring more benefit and blessing, that will bring more protection and salvation than we hear and we obey. Sami'na wa ata'na. And I say this because you can turn to the books of Kalam, you can turn, and don't anybody put your bag of rotten tomatoes away. Nobody lose their mind. But books of Aqidah, books of Kalam, these can potentially be great sources of just additional confusion. And what a person who's particularly in, as I said, for people who are struggling, right? If you're not struggling, then you probably could have stopped watching this video a long time ago. But for the person who's struggling, they need something simple, practical, where the foothold, right? If you're thinking of yourself to ascend, right? The foothold doesn't even require one to stand on their tippy toes. It is immediately and it is accessible. I have heard you, Allah, and now upon hearing you, I must obey, or at least I must attempt obedience. And not only is this for those who are struggling, but it's a great, again, I don't like these words, but forced to use them sometimes. It is a great spiritual calisthenic that anybody can use, regardless of their station or their level of practice, which is to always be reminded that there is little that we can actually elevate ourselves above sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and obey.